Dear Nigerians and wonderful viewers and great fans of Living Television, I am glad you're there watching your favorite station, the Living TV. Like we promised yesterday that today will be another wonderful day where we shall present to you your favorite program, Nigeria Today. Today in Nigeria Today, as usual, we are going to look at topical issues as they affect our country and various states. As usual, I have a well-experienced man who is going to do justice to these topics today. Maybe during our second segment, one of our analysts will be coming in. What do we have today? Chicago State University has handed over Tinubu'S academic records to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Asking for refineries in Nigeria is a risk, says Ayodele. President Tinubu presents 3 ministerial nominees to the National Assembly. The president is not a magician. That is by the wife of the president, Oluremi Tinubu. The National Assembly warns Mr. President against illegal spending. Abia Youth warns Governor of Abia State, Alex Oti, against illegal spending as well. First-timers should not vie for Senate President and the Deputy. That is the new rule in the Senate as we speak. Having said this, and many more things that will be coming your way today, I have in the house with me Barrister Chukwuemeka Nwogu. Barrister Chukwuemeka Nwogu is a legal practitioner here in Aba. He's also a security consultant and a public affairs analyst. Barrister, welcome to the program.
Thank you, moderator, and good day, viewers.
All right. The Chicago State University, I know we talked about the judgment yesterday, but as we speak, on Monday, the university has handed over the academic records to our former Vice President, Atiku Abubakar. Council, what do you think this means to Nigerians and even to Atiku, considering what the lawyers, Tinubu lawyers are saying, that this thing cannot be tendered in the Supreme Court because it was not part of the thing ab initio?
Yes, like I said yesterday in the sister program, ordinarily, this may not be acceptable. Appeals, cases on appeal are fought on the basis of records, what we call records of appeal. A compendium of the documents and the evidence and the proceedings used in the lower court, especially the trial court, are now pushed upwards, and you argue the appeal based on what is contained therein. But at the same time, the rules of the Supreme Court, even the Court of Appeal also, assuming the case was coming from a lower court to a place like the Court of Appeal, provide for, in exceptional circumstances, admission of evidence for the first time on appeal. But it is up to the person seeking, because it is a discretion on the part of the court. It's a discretion the court has to exercise. So the person who is seeking that discretion from the court must now place before the court all relevant and necessary materials to enable the court to exercise its discretion one way or the other, not necessarily in his favor, one way or the other. So even the ones against you, you will place them before the court so long as they are relevant and necessary. And then in your argument, you try to distinguish, make a case why that part shouldn't apply. This is the part that should apply. So it is very, very possible but it is not something done every day. It is an exception rather than the rule. The rule is that, yes, you cannot bring in any extraneous material. One of the reasons the applicant, and in this case now we are talking about Atiku Abubakar, would be adducing before the Supreme Court would be that he had, before or at the time of filing the case in the lower court, that's the Court of Appeal, which served as the Presidential Election Court of first instance, that at that time he had taken steps to obtain these materials and duly pleaded them so that no person is taken by surprise. Tinubu is not being taken by surprise. We had joined issues. By joining issues, we mean, I've said it, he has responded, fine, we've joined issues. And so he said, probably, I have applied to Chicago State University or to a court in US to compel the university to release the record. Upon that record being released, I will bring it. If he had said so at the lower court, it would form part of, that's not the only reason, part of a very good reason for the appellate court to yes, admit it. But if I may go a little bit further, that does not necessarily mean that once it is admitted that it's all over for Tinubu. No. Because the court, I said yesterday, I still stand by it. The Supreme Court in Nigeria has a history of having not upturned any presidential election. So to upturn this one now is going to be a Herculean task. I tried to give an example yesterday also, what happened with Buhari's certificate saga also, flowing from election petition equally or a suit bordering on it, that the court had to go the extra mile to lay down a decision which is the law today, that affidavit is superior to academic certificate. If you depose to this and say, look, I had it, or I have it, or I don't know where I kept it, or whatever, automatically that takes care of. No, that is not. That is obtainable only in Nigeria. The US, they have just demonstrated that that is not what obtains in their own country.
All right. Now, if at the end of the day the Supreme Court fails to admit this document, then what would have been the gain of Atiku over all this? Because I know what it must have cost him hiring a lawyer to do this, and for the court, for the district court in Illinois to say this thing must be produced.
Well, whether the Supreme Court admits it or not, for me, is not too important any longer. Whether they upturn Tinubu's election or not, on the basis of this certificate, is equally not too important for me. This is a personal opinion at this stage. I will explain why. The damage has already been done. It's like somebody, the Oyibos will say there is no need crying over spilled milk. And the Igbos have a similar saying, it is no longer about Tinubu as a person. By yesterday, I don't know if you saw it trending on several platforms and sites, that in UK, they have taken a decision to subject Nigerian nurses and other professionals, but particularly nurses, because that's something they always need. Some of those things they cannot do themselves. They rely on us to provide such services. But subjecting our people, Nigerians, to a revalidation of whatever document and credentials you had used to secure employment. As it were, we have now been rubbished as a nation. As it were, Nigeria has been confirmed as a fraudulent country. Do not forget that the leader of a country at any given point in time personifies that country.
Yeah.
And so, if that is the case, and our leader has been personified as, well, I'm not the one saying it, as having forged his documents somewhere along the line. That tells you that if the leader is like that, then you can now imagine how the other people are. So that is why I say whether the Supreme Court will do the needful in the minds of other people, because we have the Constitution which has stipulated qualification. We also have the provisions of the Electoral Act stipulating the consequences of presenting forged documents to INEC, the umpire. Once these are established, going by the provisions of both the Constitution and the Electoral Act, his election ought to be nullified. He ought to be disqualified, his party ought to be disqualified, and then you check whether the person who came second scored the necessary spread, satisfied the constitutional requirement, and if that is the case, you go ahead to declare that person. If not, you order a rerun. Okay. So that ordinarily ought to be the consequence. But in the days and weeks and months ahead, we are going to witness how it will go. Remember my position. Going by precedent, the Supreme Court has always found a way to save the person declared as president. During the time of Shehu Shagari and Awolowo, it also happened. The interpretation of 2/3 of 19, whereby the Supreme Court came up with a decision, and in that same decision, overruled itself. That was the first time we were seeing something like that anywhere in the world. That same decision, in it, the Supreme Court said, look, this decision is only for this case. Don't ever use it as precedent in future. Don't ever use it to judge any other situation or circumstance. Don't you ever cite it as authority to rely on it in interpretation. So that has been the position. If the Supreme Court wants to overlook it, there are several reasons. The Court of Appeal did something similar, just to say that you didn't establish that it is applicable. There are several ways to handle it. Yes.
Okay, away from that, the chairman of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee, Taiwo Oyodele, has told Nigerians to pray that refineries in the country do not work. Oyodele said a liter of petrol in Nigeria could be the most expensive in the world. He has said refineries or inefficiencies in the management of the refineries might bring about the worst situation should Nigeria refineries produce petroleum. Now, in most of our discourse in this place, in this platform, we've always talked about building of refineries and so on. But this man is telling us that that is not the best for Nigerians, and that would be a very huge risk. That would tantamount to a very huge risk if refineries are started. I don't really understand this. That even if we do it, that the cost of petroleum, that is PMS, will be so high. I don't know.
Well, first and foremost, every person is entitled to his own opinion, no matter how ignorant that person might be, and no matter how misconceived such an opinion would be. I consider it personally, that expression, assuming he said so, because I wouldn't want to believe that any right-thinking human being in Nigeria would be making this type of submission, that if our refineries come on board, that it would be the worst for us, that it is better for us to only allow these foreign corporations to drill oil and then ship it out, refine it outside and bring it. That I wouldn't want to think that any right-thinking human being made such a statement. We've come across things like this when people took such bizarre and strange, extreme positions on things. And when they were subsequently confronted by a deluge of public opinion, they reside from it and either said they were misquoted. So I would want to believe that very soon the gentleman will tell us that he was misquoted. Otherwise, if he decides to stick to such a misconceived view, I would say it is most unfortunate. He ought not to be a Nigerian.
Okay, now going by this, if we remember the outgoing administration led by President Muhammadu Buhari talked so much about our refineries, even voted out millions of naira that we used for the repairs, or rebuilding, or reconstructing, and so on. And then until he left, it was not done. And don't you think what this Ayodele is saying is as a result of that, and that is why nobody is talking about the refineries?
Well, I wouldn't know if Ayodele was appointed by the sitting president Tinubu or he took over, he commenced when Buhari was still in office, but it does not really matter. He is an appointee. The immediate past president, Buhari, felt that the refinery should come on board in his own little way, whether he meant it or not. He was trying to make effort to ensure that the refinery came on board. Tinubu has also entered and even promised us that before the end of this year, one of the refineries also would commence some production. And here is one of his appointees, as it were, employee, disagreeing that the stance being taken by his boss is wrong. The gentlemanly thing to do is to quit. That Ayodele ought to resign. He ought to resign because I'm just trying to hold myself so as not to be caustic. Bearing in mind that tomorrow he could come up to say he was misquoted. I don't see any sane human being taking that position that we should stop refining our own oil. So that means we should always be tied to the apron strings of other countries. Once they sneeze, we catch cold. Any little thing in the oil market, we catch cold because we do not have our own here. That is what he is advocating. The man should leave that office.
Okay. Well,
before he misleads.
As an heir to Mr. President, do you know if he's speaking the president's mind?
I would take the president by the one he has told us Nigerians. Okay. If he wants to tell us anything different, he has the trio, as usual, of the presidency. He has his own presidency now to tell us Ayodele is not a part of the presidency, and what he is saying is nowhere near the people that should be talking about oil at all. His own is only how to spend it and not how to generate it. He's in an area.
Because this one involves spending.
Yes.
It's a of refinery, so he's trying to protect his boss.
He's only concerned with how to spend the money and not how to get it or generate it.
Okay, Senate President Godswill Akpabio read a letter from President Tinubu requesting the confirmation of 3 ministerial nominees when the lawmakers resumed the plenary session on Tuesday. The letter has been read, and the nominees are Balarabe Abbas Lawal from Kaduna State, Dr. Jamila Biu Ibrahim from Kwara State, and Mr. Ayodele Olawande from Ondo State. These are the 3 that have been presented to the National Assembly, and the letter has been read at the floor, though nothing has been said. You know, one of them, out of the 48 presented, only 45 was cleared. And Rufai being one of the topmost, that was disqualified. And then Mr. President still want to make it 48.
Was he disqualified or he wasn't cleared?
He was not cleared.
It's different from
disqualification.
Yes.
All right, he was not cleared. And then Mr. President is still insisting on that 48, and that is why he has presented the 3 nominees. This morning, there were a lot of commentaries concerning this, saying why that same area that have had success. You know, the Ohanes Ndigbo had cried out earlier that they are seeing a pinch of marginalization in the appointment of these ministries and so on. And then this three, if you look at the names, Kaduna, Kwara and Ondo State.
Well, if do not forget that ministerial appointments are done taking into cognizance the provisions of the Constitution. They need to carry every part of Nigeria along. So if a ministerial nominee from Kaduna State was dropped, by being dropped I mean not cleared, you cannot come to Abia State to get a replacement. You can only field the replacement from that part of the country, except if maybe the nominee also from Abia was not cleared. If the president has taken people, replacements from the areas whose nominees were not cleared, he's only obeying the Constitution, which requires him to ensure that every part of the country is represented. Every part. So at any given point in time, you must have not less than 36 ministers, minimum. Now, which ministry you deploy them to is a secondary issue, and it depends solely on the discretion of the appointing authority. Okay. In the states, you also have something similar regarding commissioners. So I don't see much wrong in that one. 3 people were not cleared. Their state must be represented. Otherwise, their state can then go to court against the federal government and say, look, you are marginalizing us. And yours truly here, I will agree with them.
Okay. We have 36 states, and then we already have 45 cleared ministers or ministerial positions. And it is also possible that there are some states that have more than one.
Not possible, definitely.
Good.
Definitely.
And then if a particular state is now asking for more, because the only one when there are other states with 2 or 3, is there anything wrong with it? Is this an appointment? Is this a ministerial appointment? Is it entirely the prerogative of Mr. President?
We are running a presidential system of government.
Yeah.
He is the chief executive. It is his prerogative to nominate and then present to the National Assembly, the Senate, for confirmation. And the only way the Senate confirms is by screening. They determine their own modus of confirming. You can arrive there and they look at you and say, take a bow. You take a bow and go. They have found you worthy, such that there is no need to continue asking you questions again. So it is his prerogative to appoint. It's just that the Constitution has now given some directive on how to do it. Make sure that in appointing, every part of the country is represented. Now, once a state has gotten 1, the fact that another state got 3
is irrelevant.
Is immaterial.
Okay. All right, wonderful viewers. We're going to go on a very short break. When we come back, Nigeria Today continues. Don't go away. We'll be back shortly. Great Nigerians, I'm glad you're still there. You're back, and then remember, it's still Nigeria today. And we are still moving on. Remember, the phone line is now open 091-682-84994. I'll take it again, 091-682-84994. You can always call us, tell us where you're calling us from, then make your contributions, and then we move ahead. Remember, moving on. Oluremi Tinubu, the First Lady, says her husband inherited the current challenges in the country. The First Lady said President Tinubu would not have a magic wand to solve all the country's problems in a flash. That is the wife of our president, Oluremi Tinubu. He said his husband is not a magician, and so he inherited these problems. And that's that. So, and a lot of people are saying, if that is true, if the need of Nigerian for good governance is a magician, then the man should give way for Nigeria to move on. So what's your take on that, Council?
I agree with her that her husband is not a magician. I also agree that we do not need a magician in Nigeria to get the job done. I disagree vehemently, most vehemently, strongly with her that the husband inherited the problem. No, the husband didn't inherit the problem. The husband was one of those that caused the problem. The husband has been leading APC for the past about 9 years or so. Yeah, he's been the national leader of the ruling party that kept us in this mess. Took over. The husband is part of the administration that took over the reins of power when dollar was less than 200 naira to $1. Today it is above 1,000 naira. She cannot tell us that the husband inherited it. No, the husband caused the problem. He's a conservative agent. The woman herself has also been in the National Assembly as a senator. They were the ones, the last assembly was known for always approving loans and loans and loans. She was part of it. She is also part of the problem. So her kitchen is very much instrumental to this problem we are in today. So she cannot come to tell us not to expect magic. Now, I said I agree that we don't need a magician.
Yeah.
However, if as a result of the decadence they have plunged this country into, what is now required is a magician in the form of a messiah, or a messiah in the form of a magician. And she said the husband is not a magician. I agree that the husband should step aside. Let us try a magician. When he was busy campaigning, he told us he has the experience, that he turned Lagos around. He lifted Lagos out of poverty, that he is going to lift Nigeria out of poverty. Now he has plunged the nation into worse poverty. He is part of the administration that administered this country to such an extent and at a point in time that the National Bureau of Statistics informed us that over 100 million Nigerians, about 50-something or 60-something% of our population, are multi-dimensionally poor. Multi-dimensionally poor. No other administration in the history of Nigeria, be it civilian or military, has had the benefit of this infamy attributed to it. And yet, they are insisting on remaining on the seat. The honorable thing to do would be to maybe allow others to try their own hands. You cannot be telling us, I can't do it. Don't expect a miracle. Continue praying. Our problem in Nigeria has gone beyond prayer. It is not, prayer cannot solve the problem. Even before he became president, during the campaign, you know, when they went to recruit the fake bishops and everything and all whatnot. So prayer is not the solution. What we need are practical steps that would be seen. People who can do it. More so with this problem now hanging on his head like a sort of Damocles, the issue of the alleged forgery of certificate. If it had been in Senate lines, he wouldn't even have allowed it to have gotten to this extent. But the way and manner he fought tooth and nail, desperately to prevent revelation of his past, left so much to be desired, such that, we are entitled to our own presumptions and beliefs now based on his attitude. So the wife cannot come and tell us the husband is not a magician. He inherited. No, the husband didn't inherit. He has been instrumental to the problem we have today. He foisted Buhari on us, midwifed Buhari, sponsored everything, and was there, close by Buhari, counseling him, advising him, led him until Buhari finished his 8 years, and he now told us it is his own turn. And he also told us he will continue from where Buhari stopped. We thought it was a joke. We can see it. He's actually continuing from where Buhari stopped.
All right, 100 billion naira CNG buses. Senate rejects CBN loans. Warns Tinubu, the president, against illegal spending on Tuesday. They advised Tinubu to seek a supplementary budget for its composed natural gas initiative. The senators also urged him, as our president, to present 2023 supplementary budget for CNG. All right, Council, looking at this and the National Assembly themselves warning Mr. President against illegal spending, what do you think this is?
Yes, by the provisions of our Constitution, the government at any level, we have 3 tiers, local government, state government, federal government, is not supposed to spend any money that is not appropriated. By that, we mean budgeted for and duly approved by law, because when the budget is presented, it is debated, and then the approval given. It comes with a law that is signed into effect. So if the president is engaging in extra budgetary expenditure, that is wrong. And the National Assembly, it is part of their oversight function to call him to order. The proper thing for him to do is to seek supplementary approval for a supplementary budget and then continue spending. So if they are saying do the right thing, yes, their reason for so doing, let's leave that for another day.
All right, I really need to, outside the constitutional provisions that guides both the president and even the Senate, is it proper to say that Mr. President is doing illegal spending?
Once the law, remember I said there is a law that is an impeachable offense. It is an impeachable offense for a chief executive of the nation or state to engage in extra budgetary spending. There is a law that comes with it. So what it means is that you are breaching the provisions of the law, and by so doing, you're also breaching your oath of office. Because at the time you were inaugurated, you took an oath to uphold the laws of the nation. So if the law has said, spend 50,000 naira, and you are now spending 55,000 naira, you are disobeying the law, and it is an impeachable offense. So the proper thing for him to do to avoid commencement of impeachment proceedings against him would be to seek approval. Once he gets the approval and then signs it again into law, then he's within his bounds and limits to spend as approved.
Okay, in this still in this issue, a lot of commentators on it said that the Senate or National Assembly are frowning over this because one, they were not consulted. You remember in one of the 14-point promises of or agreement reached with the federal government and the NLC and TUC yesterday, we talked about these 100 billion naira CNG buses. And then, because they were not, the Senate were not properly consulted, and maybe the needful done, according to them, and that is why they are kicking against them. Is that true?
The job of the legislature can be categorized into three. One is representation. Probably the most important would be lawmaking, because that is from where they get the name legislature. So, second one is lawmaking, and then the third one is oversight function. Oversight function entails that they watch over the activities of government and its agencies, organs, to ensure that those agencies and organs function within the ambit of the law. So when anyone tries to go outside, and by that you say acting ultra vires, outside his powers or outside the limits provided, it is part of their job to rein in that one and call it order. If there's a persistence, then they can begin to wield the big stick. So it is illegal for such an extra-budgetary expenditure to be embarked upon without approval, and they are right. I cannot fault the National Assembly on this one.
Okay, talking about impeachment.
Except if it had been earlier on provided. It is one, the National Assembly can come up and say, you are engaging in extra-budgetary expenditure. It will now be the duty of Mr. President or any persons acting on his behalf in that regard to draw the attention of the National Assembly to relevant parts or portions of the Appropriation Act to say, no, we are not. We had earlier on anticipated this. See where we provided for it. It was duly approved. And once they satisfy the National Assembly to that anticipatory expenditure, I think that would be okay by all the sides.
Talking about impeachment, since the inception of this country, last year, before this present administration, there were so many rumors about the outgone president to be impeached by the National Assembly. There were several attempts, but it never happened. Is there anything any president of this country can do and will be impeached?
I just gave you an example. Extra-budgetary expenditure is an impeachable offense. Lying on oath is an impeachable offense. There are several. Refusal to obey court order is also an impeachable offense. There are several things that, it's not an absolute position. There is a document called the Constitution that regulates how you are to function as president. Once you go outside it, and probably it is irremediable, or your attention is drawn to it and you persist, then it is impeachable.
Now, talking about disobedience to the rule of law, the outgone president did that, but nothing happened.
Yes, because the National Assembly then, and I still think this one, lacked, and they still lack the clout, the muscle, the capability to do what is necessary if there is disobedience to the law. Everybody was afraid of Buhari. Everybody was afraid of him.
Okay. The Senate on Tuesday amended its rules to restrict first-time senators from vying for the position of the Senate President and Deputy Senate President. You remember that in this just concluded, shortly before Senator Abubakar emerged, this governor of Zamfara State, that was his first time, he wielded so much power and contested for that Senate presidency. And now they are saying you must have been in the Senate once or twice before you cannot judge for the first timers.
That particular provision is ordinarily, it appears in the rules of most legislatures that a first timer does not aspire to certain positions. That's why president is accorded so much a position and place in the legislature. I am surprised because I thought that it has always been there. So I'm surprised hearing that they are just amending to accommodate that now. Do not also forget, one of the reasons why they may have woken up now to do it. Some days ago, there were rumors that upon return from recess and reconvening, there were moves for Akpabio to be impeached. So maybe the people that were eyeing his position then, with whom he contested, are still eyeing it. And one easy way of taking care of such is to now block them using the provisions of the rules. Look, you're a first timer, you can no longer aspire to be a big boy. This thing is a big boys club. So if that has been done, it whittles down the capability of the people challenging him. Maybe it also reduces their number to manageable limits. So I don't put that beyond one of the reasons why this particular provision might have been inserted in the rules of the Senate.
Having been a governor for about 8 years or even 4 years, do you think it is a big deal to ask for the Senate presidency of the nation?
In Nigeria, once you start eating, nobody wants to leave. Even Governor Wike, with all his power and might, is now a minister. Sam Ewu of Ebonyi was also Minister for Education. You also have several of them. People who have held higher positions coming down, and the argument is that, look, it is service, and so that if you're called to serve, you don't demean the position insofar as you are serving. So that can be justified on grounds of that, especially if the person has something tangible to offer or is seen to have something tangible to offer.
Okay, finally, before we go, a group, Abia Youth Interest Group, AVIG, at the weekend warned the Abia State Governor, Alex Chioma Oti, to stop using funds belonging to the state to finance the appeal of the presidential candidate of the Labour Party at the Supreme Court. Now, asking him to stop, does that mean that they have an evidence that such a thing has been going on?
I think it's only that group that can substantiate their assertion. I'm not a member of that group, so I don't know. I'm also not one of the lawyers in the presidential team of the Labour Party, so I also don't know from where the lawyers are being paid, the expenses for the appeal, where it's coming from. However, if, because I've said already that I don't know, but if what they are saying is true and has merit, that is to say that the governor of Abia State is using Abia funds to prosecute the appeal of any person for that matter, even himself, it is wrong to use state resources to prosecute your own private case, because an election petition is a private case. The fact that you are governor, you've been sworn in, does not mean that you are going to use the resources of the state to prosecute or defend your petition in court. That is wrong. So, assuming that is what the governor is doing or has done, it is wrong.
Okay, one of their major reasons, for saying this, they said Alex Oti, as we speak, is the only governor throughout the federation from the Labour Party, and that is why
that is untenable. I don't agree with that. That is untenable. The fact that he is the only Labour party governor does not mean he is the one funding P2B's case in court. Remember, I said I do not know. But if that is their only reason, the only reason they have for saying so is because he is the only governor, then unless they are able to substantiate it, I wouldn't buy that. If they have the evidence, they should come up with it. Just merely saying it alone, to me, is not sufficient. If they have other things from which we can now infer, draw inferences or conclusions, and they say, we have this evidence, look at this one, pull them together, they now paint a picture, then we will begin to look at what they are saying. Otherwise, I don't, speaking for myself, I don't necessarily agree.
The chief spokesperson of the governor of Abia State, Mr. Ekoma, has said, or rather alleged, that the opposition parties, APC and PDP, are the people that alleged that Alex Chiomoti, the governor of Abia State, is sponsoring IPOB in Abia State. And I know you are a chieftain of PDP, and then, we don't have any APC man here. Have you heard that?
Have I heard, sorry, sir?
That Alex, the spokesperson to the governor, alleged that the PDP and APC, the opposition political parties, are the ones rumoring that Alex Oti sponsors IPOB.
I know that PDP, to which I belong, when they want to say anything, they will come out, look you in the eye, point at you, and if possible, touch you. My friend, you are the one we are referring to. If PDP wants to make any such statement, I'm not aware that PDP has made any such statement. If they want to say it, they will come out boldly and say it, and the heavens will not fall. And by the time they are saying so, they will also be giving evidence, or at least adducing some facts to justify their assertion. To the best of my knowledge, PDP has not accused the governor, and if they want to do it, I'm sure it will be based on information available to them before they do it. So it would not be fair to say PDP is rumoring. PDP is a party that has gone way beyond rumoring. You can say that for some other political parties, but no, certainly not.
Okay, before we call it a quit, I want you to, based on the topics we've deliberated on today, I want you to give us your parting statements.
Looking at things, I'm a Christian. I believe in prayer, but I also believe in hard work. While we are praying, we should brace up for, let me not say hardship, no, but let's brace up for strong days ahead. The activities of our leaders, they have a way of rubbing off on the rest of us. What just transpired between last week and Monday, see the ripple effect on our professionals who are outside the country. Yes, it's now being said that they are being subjected to revalidation of their certificates just because of one man. Yes, one finger, you dip it into oil. Before you know it, all the fingers of that palm will be stained with oil. That is exactly what is happening. Everybody is now paying the price for the alleged, even though it's proved in a court abroad, but I still say alleged because our own court here has not said so, but alleged forgery by our Oga chief driver. So it's really going to be tough. The dollar is still above 1,000 naira by exchange. And somebody is busy telling us we should continue importing fuel and not build our own refineries or do something about it. It's dangerous. It's going to be dangerous. It's really unfortunate. I think our leaders need to be more careful about the things they do, knowing that whatever they do or say has a way of rubbing off on the rest of the populace, even in private capacity. It has, because you are an alter ego. Once you're in a position of leadership, you're an alter ego of the government.
All right, wonderful viewers, that's the much we are going to take for today. I thank you so much for being part of this program. And also remember, I will always tell us anytime we're about ending, that Nigeria is our country and Abia is our state. So we ain't going to run away from it. I also want you to remember, especially our leaders, that life is not computed by its duration, but by its donation. It doesn't really matter how long you live here on earth, but what you're able to put in the footprint of life. Today we still talk about Chief Barrister Sam Onona Kambakwe, because he was the governor in Imo State, and this Imo State then comprised of 3 states, Ebonyi, Abia, and then the Imo State itself. And today, his impact is felt everywhere in these 3 states. Our leaders now, what will you be remembered for? Having said that, thank you again for being part of this program. And Barrister Chukwemeka Nwogo, a security consultant, thank you so much for being part of today's program.
Thank you, moderator, and bye, viewers.
And this is your anchorman, Chinedum Adiele, signing off. Remember, Tuesday we're going to have another wonderful time in issues of the moment. Keep watching Living TV. Interesting programs will be coming your way even after now. Bye for now.